Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David. Today, I don't even know where to start. There's too many scandals. There are too many scandals. We're going to jump into the House of Commons. Pierre Poilievre is back in there. Justin Trudeau didn't show up for work. But there's so many scandals going on right now. The RCMP are testifying. In so many words, they're basically saying that Trudeau didn't allow them to get information on him, the SNC-Lavalin scandal. There's a new scandal with a China biolab. Trudeau allowed our data be sold. Got the new online harms bill, which basically allows Trudeau to put anyone in jail for life for anything that they deem they want, because they left it wide open. We're going to have to break down all of these in different videos. For now, we're jumping in the House of Commons here. Pierre Poilievre is going toe-to-toe with more of these liberal schmucks.
This Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the corruption. Today, Conservatives got a letter from the Commissioner of the RCMP indicating that the National Police Force is now formally investigating the Arrive scam and the Auditor General's report into it. Now, we know that the Auditor General the government deprived the Auditor General of key documents to calculate the full cost and the breadth of the scandal. We also know that the Prime Minister refused to hand over documents in the SNC-Lavalin and the Aga Khan Island scandals. Will the Prime Minister commit here and now to giving the RCMP all the documents and evidence on Arrive scam?
This is another scandal, obviously, the Arrive scam. The SNC-Lavalin one is another one from before, a couple years ago.
Mr. Speaker, again, the Leader of the Opposition seems to be impressed with some information that's been known in the public space for many weeks.
These losers, look at this. They're laughing about a scandal that's stealing our money. This is what they think of us. Screw you guys. Screw you.
RCMP have confirmed previously that they're looking into the circumstances around Arrive Can. We have total confidence in the RCMP, and we'll continue to do whatever we need to do, Mr. Speaker, to cooperate with the National Police Force and every other ongoing investigation.
Other investigation. How many police investigations are they facing, Mr. Speaker? After 8 years, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost of food. Today, we got a terrible report from the charity Second Harvest, which reports that this year they expect 1 million additional visits to food banks, and that last year 36% of charities had to turn people away because they were running out of resources. Will the Prime Minister reverse his inflationary carbon tax on farmers and food?
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to fight for Canadians, we will take no lessons from these conservatives, Mr. Speaker. Today, I just appeared in front of the Agricultural Committee, and Mr. Speaker, it was shocking to see that one of their members was defending the profit margin of foreign food processor, Mr. Speaker, at a time when we should all be fighting in this House for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. If the Leader of the Opposition want to do something for Canadians, vote for C-59, increase competition in this country. More competition is more choice, better price for Canadians, and more innovation, Mr. Speaker. Canadians understand that. Will he understand?
If we look at the beginning, look at Wilkinson and Sean Fraser's next to him. Just watch this again. These are serious matters, and these guys are chuckling like this is just some funny joke. I moved the screen over a bit here. So check it out.
We'll take no lessons from these conservatives, Mr. Speaker.
Watch these guys.
Today, I just appeared in front of the Agricultural Committee, and Mr. Speaker, it was shocking to see that one of their members was defending the profit margin of foreign food processors.
Pick the nose, have a good laugh. One of the biggest disgraces in Canadian history right there. Sean Fraser, Jonathan Wilkinson right there behind him. You got Champagne once again drunk on himself. He always does that same crap every single time. We won't be taking any lessons from you.
Speaker, what I understand is that after 8 years, this Prime Minister, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, is not worth the cost of food. And if you thought that grocery profits were too high, after 8 years, you'd think he might have done something about it. But instead, we now have a massive increase. Let's get this straight. Second Harvest predicts there will be 1 million more visits to food banks this year than there was in last year's record-breaking year. In fact, many charities can no longer give people food because they've actually run out. In light of the failure of the carbon tax and the pain it is causing, will they axe the tax so that Canadians can afford to eat?
One thing Canadians know, Mr. Speaker, is that the Leader of Opposition, the preferred verb is cut Mr. Speaker. We all know he would be cutting. When you're looking at the record on both sides, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what we have done in the last few months to fight for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We have launched the largest reform on competition in this nation history. We have made sure that we have a functioning Consumers Bureau of Affairs, Mr. Speaker. We have made sure that we have now in this country more measures to fight for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, every member of this House should be fighting for Canadians. The question is, will the Conservative fight with us for Canadians?
Speaker, after that answer just proves that after 8 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost. It's not just that 1 million more people will visit food banks this year than in last year's record-smashing year. It's that now there's a large Facebook group of 800 people, 8,000 people, who call themselves the Dumpster Diving Network. So desperate are they that not only can they not afford groceries or find it at food banks, that they're literally jumping into garbage cans to find food. How desperate do Canadians have to get before this government will finally axe its tax on food?
Amen.
Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure
enough's
and
enough.
Communities.
Mr. Speaker, over the past 8 years, I have watched time and time again the Conservatives stand up to vote against the very measures that are putting money in the pockets of families to help them cover the cost of food. When it comes to the Canada Child Benefit, we stopped sending checks to millionaires so we could put more money in the pockets of 9 out of 10 families. When it comes to taxes, we raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% to cut them for the middle class. When it comes to seniors, we put more money in the pockets of low-income single seniors. On every one of these measures, the Conservatives have opposed them. We will continue to do what's necessary to allow families to put food on the table, no matter how hard they oppose.
Yes.
The honourable member for...
Just more absolute nonsense from Sean Fraser. These problems go across Canada. Like in BC, which is an NDP government right now, this rule's been there for a while, but if you own a home and it's your primary residence, you get a discount off your property tax every year. And it's something like, I don't know, $600 or $700, $800 or something. But if you rent, you don't get those same benefits. Like there's... If he wanted to do something, he should be talking to like the NDP government over there and making that equal. I know they're going to bring in some rental tax or whatever that basically brings up some money, but even then it only comes up to maybe $350 to $400. It's like half as much as homeowners get on rebate on their property tax. We need to make things like equal in Canada here on some level. Like, come on.
And will the Liberals act to ensure more doctors and nurses are hired so everyone can get high quality and timely health care?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And coming out of the pandemic, coming out of some of the most difficult times that our planet has ever faced in terms of global health, we have stepped forward. I want to thank the member in the NDP for his work and for pointing out that the Conservatives will cut and cut deeply. When they talk about what their plans are, they fail to mention to achieve them, they are going to need to cut billions and billions out of health with devastating consequences. In contrast, we are investing in every province, in every territory of this country to make sure that we have the best healthcare system in the country. We will be relentless in that focus, and we will not let the Conservatives deter us.
Yeah, we got the Minister of Death here trying to tell us how good our healthcare system is. The healthcare in Canada is the worst I've ever seen it in my lifetime. It is terrible. Like, you just pray you don't have to go and get any health care because forget about it. This is real rich, too, coming from the guy who wanted to bring in the medical assistance in dying maid program. Just get rid of the Canadians who are depressed. They probably won't vote Liberal anyways, right? That's what we'll do. It'll help our numbers. That's... Screw you, too. Mark Holland.
He's going to make everything more expensive on April 1st with another carbon tax hike, and the effects on Canadians are devastating. A new report from GoFundMe says that Canadians started 200,000 online charity drives to help raise money just to cover day-to-day expenses. Instead of forcing Canadians to ask for help from online crowdsourcing campaigns, why doesn't the Prime Minister do the obvious thing? Cancel his carbon tax hike and stop making things more expensive.
Mr. Speaker, last year was the hottest year on record.
Here we go.
On the planet. And the Conservative leader and his party continue to deny climate change. Meanwhile, with our carbon rebate, we are putting money back into the pockets of Canadian families.
No, you're not.
Are you going to vote against $1,200 for Ontario families, $1,800
Yes.
for Alberta families,
Yeah.
$1,200 for Manitoba
Yep.
families? That doesn't sound like common sense to me, Mr.
Does she think we're stupid? Give me a break. We're not dumb, lady. We're all doing the math. We're all doing it. Different provinces, different situations. It's at least $4,000, at up to $9,000 a year. Never will these liberals acknowledge the fact that China is the one with 30% of the effective carbon on the planet. Canada with 1.5%. Once again, I've said it a million times, does nothing. It literally does nothing. Should we strive to have less impact? Sure, but not at the cost of 40 million people suffering. This is a hard no. Meanwhile, these bumbling buffoons jet set around the world in their private jets. They tell us that we need to cut out everything and what? No more roads, no more driving, just snowshoe to work. Give me a break.
Axe the tax and leave the money in Canadians' pockets in the first place.
Yeah.
Canadians aren't fooled by the shell game. They know the rebate doesn't cover all the costs of the carbon tax as manufacturers and producers raise their prices to pay their share of the carbon tax, and all that gets passed on to consumers. But you know, sites like GoFundMe used to be used to help children who lost their parents tragically, and now Canadians are turning to crowdsourcing to help pay their food bills. Officials say that 56,000 campaigns were started just to pay for the cost of food alone. Why doesn't the Prime Minister just axe the tax so prices can come down?
That's unbelievable. 56,000 campaigns across Canada to pay for food. Like, what point do we have, as citizens, have to go and take back, without saying it, you guys know what I mean? What point does a large group of Canadians decide that we're going to change how the system works? You know, we should switch it to like Switzerland. They've got, I think, 6 leaders that get elected. So there's not one person in power, and those 6 people have to vote. And I don't know if it's a 50-50 thing, but you need at least like 4 votes to have something pass. And if there's 3 and 3, then it doesn't. I don't know exactly how that works. I'm going to look into it more. But I know they have 6 leaders when their leaders get elected. So not one gets this draconian power like you got Trudeau just running us into the ground.
Mr. Speaker, the difference between that side of the House and this side of the House is that we don't deny the existence of climate change, and we want to protect it for generations to come. So I have again a question. Are you going to take money away from Canadian families, Mr. Speaker, by voting against $1,200 for Ontario
Shut up, Anita.
families,
That's all I have to say. Shut up.
$1,800 for Alberta families, $1,200 for Manitoba families. Mr. Speaker, that's taking money away from Canadians by telling them they're not going to have.
I didn't get a carbon tax rebate. I live in BC. The maximum we can get out here is $477. I didn't get a dime. Like, these idiots.
The rebates and voting against. That's not common sense.
In order for this radical environment minister to show some compassion and stop the 23% April 1st tax hike for all Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, on this side of the House, we'll continue to fight climate change while putting money back into the pockets of Canadian families.
Look what's going on here. These two guys chuckling away. It's like there's no respect for the House and her speaking and the situation. These guys are just the worst ever. Like, look at this. What is so funny, man? They literally just talked about people dumpster diving. Oh, man. I try to keep things upbeat, but man, I'm getting pissed off here. I'm getting really pissed off. It's boom time. On top of that, too, this squirrely little weasel, Stephen Guilbeault, doesn't even get up to answer and like to defend himself. They send this rat to get up there. She's quickly becoming one of the most hated liberals on this bench for me personally. She just blatantly lies every time. She's such a snake. And then she goes and poses in front of a food bank sign like that's like a fun thing to do. So this is exactly what Pierre Poilievre was talking about, this dumpster diving network of Toronto. It's actually almost 9,000 members, and it's much worse because look, there's ones all over Canada, 1,000. There's 130,000. This is a general one. 100 there, another 1,300 there, Canada, US. You got at least over 10, 11,000 dumpster diving people in dumpster diving groups. This is just terrible. Well, we got Stephen Gilbo on the screen here. It's time for a new segment here, comment of the day, where I pick the funniest comment to go in the video. From yesterday's video, there was a segment where Stephen Gilbo was talking about how they were trying to give money to the farmers.
They voted against funding in support of dairy, poultry, and egg supply management.
Somebody wrote this, which is hilarious. This is the comment of the day. No farmer would let that creep on their property. I laughed really hard when I first saw that.
While Conservatives will axe the tax, fix the homes, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime, this NDP Liberal...
Why are they appalled by that? Liberals are appalled by fixing the homes?
Order. I think it's important for all of us to remember the old expression there, but for the grace of God I go. And we've all sometimes made a mistake. I'm going to ask the honourable member from Kenora to start his question again from the top.
While Conservatives will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime, it's not worth the cost, the crime, or the corruption, Mr. Speaker. 1 in 5 families are living in energy poverty, and we know that rate is even higher in rural areas like Northern Ontario, Mr. Speaker. So while they laugh about it, why doesn't this Prime Minister finally axe his April carbon tax hike so that Canadians can afford to heat their homes?
Needs to be unplugged from the wall and plugged back in, Mr. Speaker. And here's what I hope happens when that reboot occurs. I hope he'll get up from his place, walk down to the Leader of the Opposition and say, pass the fall economic statement, help Canadians. Pass childcare, help the moms and dads out there.
Is this guy real? Did he not forget what Trudeau just said in Poland?
We know that Russia must win this war.
Looks like Trudeau needs to be unplugged and not plugged back in. Thank you very much.
The plan simply isn't working. The carbon tax isn't an environmental plan because emissions are on the rise. More Canadians are paying more in the tax than they're getting back.
While Conservatives still debate whether or not climate change is real, while some of those members say that climate change is actually created by body heat from humans, others say that carbon dioxide is good for the planet, Mr. Speaker. 200,000 farmers in the last decade, 200,000 farmers in the last decade say they've experienced the impacts of climate change, making food costs going up. There's no link between carbon pricing and food price, but there is a link between climate change impacts and food prices. What's the Conservative response? More climate change, Mr. Speaker.
There's no price. Oh, God. There's no link between carbon price and food price. Give me a break, man. What are these guys sniffing? They're a bunch of flower sniffers. There's no logic whatsoever. The sad state of affair when we got an extra million people that are projected to need food banks. You got dumpster diving groups. There's a guy on TikTok who does dumpster diving as like a business, and he finds all sorts of stuff. It's amazing it's like brand new products. He finds a lot of food stuff too. He sets up a warehouse and then sells everything because there's so many things that are thrown away. There should be laws against this stuff. I don't know what it's like in Canada. If you know about this in Canada at all, I'd love to hear in the comments down below. To wrap up this video, I got something funny here to show you. There's a girl who's drunk at McDonald's. She claims to be Ella Grace Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's daughter, and it's just, you gotta see this.
I cut off all my hair for Israel. This is a wig. Really? Okay, yeah.
That's impressive. Thank you.
Yes, my dad's Justin Trudeau.
What's your name?
He's trying to take all of your money. Don't vote for the Liberal Party. Vote for Conservative. Guys, my dad's Justin Trudeau. He's trying to take your money to take me to Jamaica. Vote for Justin Trudeau. He's trying to take
Hope we can stay positive through these multiple scandals. At some point, one of these has to crack open, and Trudeau's got to go to jail. Or we got to start at least seeing someone in the Liberal Party going to jail. You can't have, I don't know what we're at now, 15, 16, 18 scandals, and no one's going to jail. Really? Somebody's going to jail. So I want to thank all of you for watching to the end of the video here. I greatly appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you get notified of my videos when they come out. Stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys in the next one.